Story 1. I've lived in my suburban neighborhood for about 5 years now. I'm a nurse at the local hospital working night shifts, which means my days off are precious to me. I'm also a bit of a prepper, nothing extreme, just practical stuff like keeping emergency supplies, first aid kits, and yes, a generator. I bought my generator 3 years ago after a particularly nasty winter storm left us without power for nearly a week. It's nothing fancy, just powerful enough to keep my refrigerator running, charge my devices, and power a small space heater or fan depending on the season. It cost me 2 months of overtime shifts, but it's been worth every penny for the peace of mind. My next-door neighbor, who I'll call Karen, not her real name, obviously, moved in about a year ago. She's probably in her 40s, drives an enormous SUV with a "Live, Laugh, Love" bumper sticker, and has spoken to me exactly twice before this incident, once to complain about my garbage cans being visible from the street, and once to ask if I could do something about the birds that were singing too loudly in my oak tree in the mornings. So, this past weekend we had a massive thunderstorm roll through. The forecast had been warning about it for days, and sure enough, around 6 p.m. on Saturday, the power went out across our entire neighborhood and surrounding areas. I had just woken up, remember, night shift, and was getting ready to enjoy my day off when everything went dark. No big deal. I went to the garage, pulled out my generator, set it up on my back patio away from windows and doors for safety, and got it running. I had enough fuel stored to last about 72 hours if I was careful. I plugged in my refrigerator, a lamp, and my phone charger. Then I settled in with a book, planning to have a quiet evening. That's when the doorbell rang. Since the power was out, it meant someone was leaning on the actual mechanical doorbell button pretty hard. I opened the door to find Karen standing there in what appeared to be a bathrobe, with some kind of green face mask already applied, and her hair wrapped in a towel. "Karen, oh thank goodness you're home. I need to use your generator." Me, excuse me? Karen, your generator? I can hear it running. I need to borrow it for a few hours. Me, I'm sorry, but I need it for my refrigerator and a few essential items. Karen, rolling her eyes, well, I need it more. It's my spa night. I have all the girls coming over in an hour, and I need to finish getting ready. The hair dryer, the hot tub, the whole setup needs power. I was genuinely confused for a moment. Was she seriously asking me to give up my generator so she could have a spa party during a blackout? Me, I don't think you understand. There's a major power outage. The generator I have isn't powerful enough to run all those things anyway. It's just for emergencies. Karen, huffing, this is an emergency. I've been planning this for weeks. Just wheel it over to my place and help me set it up. I'll give it back tomorrow. Me, no, I'm not doing that. I need it for my food and medical supplies. That's when her face changed from merely annoyed to outright hostile. Karen, medical supplies? You don't look sick to me. Me, I'm a nurse. I keep certain supplies refrigerated, and I need power for that. This was partially true. I did have some medication that needed refrigeration, though it wasn't life or death urgent. Karen, crossing her arms, you're being incredibly selfish right now. Do you know how much I spent on preparations for tonight? The professional-grade facial masks alone cost over $200. They need to be kept at a specific temperature or they're ruined. Me, I'm sorry about your facial masks, but my answer is still no. Karen, voice rising, you don't even need it. I can see you're just using it to read a book. That's so wasteful when I have a real need. Me, it's my generator. I bought it with my money. I'm using it for my needs. Karen, practically shouting, now this is ridiculous. We're neighbors. Neighbors are supposed to help each other. Me, yes, in emergencies. Your spa night is not an emergency. Karen, I'm going to call the homeowners association about this. There must be rules about sharing emergency equipment during disasters. I should mention we don't even have a homeowners association in our neighborhood. I was starting to lose my patience. Me, look, the power company said they're working on it. It might be back on in a few hours. Why don't you reschedule your spa night? Karen, gasping as if I'd suggested she sell her firstborn reschedule. Are you insane? Everyone has already bought their wine. We've been coordinating schedules for weeks. I was about to close the door when I heard a car pull up. A woman stepped out carrying shopping bags. Woman from car, hey, the traffic lights are all out. It's crazy out there. Karen, spinning around finally. Listen, this neighbor pointing at me has a generator and won't share it for our spa night. Can you believe how selfish some people are? The woman looked confused, then embarrassed. Woman from car, why would they give up their generator for our spa night? Karen, because it's an emergency. Now the newcomer looked truly uncomfortable. Woman from car, maybe we should just reschedule? The power might be out all night. Karen, with dramatic exasperation, not you too. Fine, I'll handle this myself. She stormed off toward her house, leaving me and the woman with shopping bags in an awkward silence. Woman from car, I'm so sorry about that. I had no idea she was going to ask someone for their generator. I just nodded, and she hurried after Karen. I thought that was the end of it, but about 20 minutes later, I heard shouting outside. I looked out my window to see Karen's husband, I assume being berated in their driveway, while he stood next to his pickup truck. Karen was gesturing wildly in the direction of my house. The man kept shaking his head and pointing to his phone. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught phrases like, just asked to borrow, and not going to steal, and being ridiculous. 10 minutes later, my doorbell rang again. This time it was the husband. Husband, hey, sorry to bother you. My wife mentioned you have a generator. Me, cautiously, yes. Husband, looking embarrassed, look, I know she probably wasn't very polite about asking. She gets stressed about her social events. We don't need your generator, but I wanted to ask if maybe we could charge a couple of phones, just for an hour or so. Our daughter is at college, and we want to make sure we can stay in touch if she calls. This seemed like a reasonable request, and honestly, I felt bad for the guy. Me, sure, I can help with that. Bring them over and I'll plug them in. Husband, really, thank you. I really appreciate it. He went back to get the phones. As he was walking away, Karen rushed out of their house and intercepted him, clearly arguing about something. She kept pointing at his truck, then at my house. They went back and forth for a few minutes before he threw up his hands and returned to me. Husband, looking defeated, she wants to know if you'd be willing to sell your generator. She'll pay double what you paid for it. Me, it's not for sale. I need it. Husband, nodding quickly, that's what I told her. Sorry to bother you. He turned to leave, but then we both heard the sound of a vehicle starting. To my horror, I saw Karen backing her SUV down their driveway, clearly intending to drive over to my house. The husband cursed under his breath and ran to intercept her. What followed was an argument right there in the street, with Karen getting out of the SUV and yelling about how I was hoarding essential supplies, and her husband trying to calm her down. By this point, a few other neighbors had come outside to see what all the commotion was about. One of them, an older man from across the street, walked over to me as I stood watching from my porch. Older neighbor, what's going on? I explained the situation briefly. Older neighbor, shaking his head, that woman tried to demand my battery-powered leaf blower last month because her pool had leaves in it and the gardener wasn't coming until Monday. We stood watching as Karen's spa guests began arriving, looking confused at the scene unfolding in the street. Karen was now telling everyone who would listen that I was endangering the neighborhood by not sharing emergency equipment. Finally, her husband managed to usher her back inside their house, apologizing to everyone as they went. The power eventually came back on around midnight. The next morning, I found a note in my mailbox that read, "I'm extremely disappointed in your selfish behavior during our community crisis. A true neighbor would have stepped up to help. Don't expect any assistance from us in the future. P.S. Your generator makes too much noise and violates city ordinance." I checked with the city. There is no such ordinance as long as you're following basic safety guidelines, which I was. 2 days later, I saw Karen at the local hardware store in the generator aisle, berating a sales associate about installation. I quickly turned around and left before she could see me. Some battles just aren't worth fighting. Story 2. I've been bringing my golden retriever to Oakwood Dog Park for 3 years now. I got him after my divorce as a way to cope with the loneliness. My therapist suggested a pet might help, and she was right. My golden became my best friend, my confidant, and my reason to get out of bed some mornings. We fell into a routine morning walks, afternoon play at the dog park, and evenings curled up on the couch watching whatever was on TV. Oakwood is the largest dog park in our city, with plenty of space for all types of dogs to run around. Dog owners in our community are generally friendly, respectful, and understand the unwritten rules of sharing public spaces. Well, most of them anyway. It was a perfectly normal Tuesday afternoon when everything happened. I just gotten off work early and decided to take my golden to the park before the after-work crowd showed up. There were only a handful of other dogs there, a Labrador, a mixed breed, and a couple of smaller dogs playing in the corner. That's when I first saw her. A woman in her 40s dressed like she was heading to a fashion show rather than a dog park. Designer sunglasses, pristine white pants, who wears white pants to a dog park, and high-heeled boots that kept sinking into the grass. She was carrying a tiny Pomeranian that looked more like an orange puffball than a dog. She surveyed the park with obvious disgust before setting her dog down near the entrance. The Pomeranian immediately started yapping at every dog in sight, including mine, who was just running around chasing a ball. My dog, being the friendly goofball he is, trotted over to say hello. He didn't bark or jump, just approached with his tail wagging. Before he could get within 5 feet of her dog, the woman shrieked like she was being murdered. "Woman, get your filthy mutt away from my precious. He's a purebred Pomeranian worth more than your car." I was so shocked, I nearly dropped the tennis ball I was holding. Excuse me. My dog is just being friendly. He's not doing anything wrong. Woman, these parks should have separate sections for designer dogs. Precious could catch something from these. Common animals. She said common animals like she was talking about rats or cockroaches. I looked around, and the other dog owners were staring at us. All dogs are welcome here. That's kind of the point of a public dog park. Woman, well, that's a problem then, isn't it? My precious deserves better. She picked up her Pomeranian and marched over to the far side of the park. I figured that was the end of it and went back to playing fetch with my dog. About 15 minutes later, I noticed she was doing something strange near the fence. She had pulled some kind of portable barriers from her oversized designer handbag and was setting them up, creating a makeshift enclosure in about half the park. Another dog owner, an older man with a beagle, approached her first. Older man, excuse me, what are you doing? Woman, creating a safe space for premium breeds. You can keep your mutts on that side. Older man, you can't section off a public park. That's not how this works. Woman, watch me. By this time, I'd walked over to see what was happening. So had several other dog owners. You need to take those barriers down. This is a public space. Woman, I've already called the park management. They'll be installing permanent dividers soon. I've explained the situation, and they agree with me. I knew this was complete nonsense. The city's parks department would never agree to something so ridiculous. That's not true. You can't just make up rules for a public space. Woman, do you know who my husband is? He's on the city council. As it happens, I work for the city in the public works department, and I knew every council member by name. None of them had a wife matching her description. No, he's not. Please take down those barriers before someone trips over them. She glared at me like I just insulted her ancestors. Woman, fine. If you won't respect designer breeds, I'll handle this myself. She picked up her Pomeranian again and started walking toward the exit. I thought that was the end of it and returned to playing with my dog. About 10 minutes later, she returned without her Pomeranian, but carrying something in her hand. I didn't realize what was happening until it was almost too late. My Golden had run over to greet another dog near the entrance, putting him in her path. Before I could react, she had pulled out what looked like a small canister pepper spray. Hey, what are you doing? I sprinted across the park faster than I've moved in years. Just as she was aiming the spray at my dog, I managed to grab her wrist and push it upward. The spray released into the air, thankfully missing all dogs, but catching me with some backsplash. My eyes immediately started burning. Woman, let go of me. You're assaulting me. You were about to pepper spray my dog. By this time, everyone in the park was watching. An off-duty police officer who frequents the park with his German Shepherd came running over. Off-duty officer, what's going on here? Woman, this person attacked me. I want them arrested. She was trying to pepper spray my dog for coming near her. The officer looked at the canister still in her hand. Off-duty officer, ma'am, were you about to use pepper spray on a dog? Woman, these mongrels shouldn't be allowed near premium breeds. I was protecting myself. Off-duty officer, that's not how the law works. You can't pepper spray a dog for simply approaching you in a dog park. Woman, well, someone needs to do something. I'm calling my lawyer right now. This park will hear from me. And boy, did we hear from her. The next week, she actually filed a lawsuit against the city parks department, claiming the dog park was negligently designed for not having separate areas for premium breeds and common dogs. She even demanded damages for emotional distress caused by having her Pomeranian exposed to lesser breeds. I was called as a witness since I was involved in the pepper spray incident. When I arrived at the courthouse for the hearing, I was surprised to see several other dog owners from the park there too. The off-duty police officer was also present, in uniform this time. The judge, an older woman with gray hair and reading glasses, listened to her complaint with thinly veiled irritation. When the woman finished her dramatic testimony about the trauma her Pomeranian had suffered, the judge peered over her glasses. Judge, let me get this straight. You're suing the city because the public dog park doesn't segregate dogs based on what you consider their value. Woman, premium breeds should have their own space. It's common sense. Judge, and when you didn't get your way, you attempted to pepper spray someone's pet. Woman, I was defending myself and Precious. The judge looked at the police officer who confirmed my version of events. Then she looked at the Parks Department representative who explained that no such separate section plan had ever been discussed or approved. Judge, case dismissed. Furthermore, I'm issuing a restraining order barring you from all city dog parks for the next year. If you have issues with public spaces being public, perhaps you should build a private dog park in your backyard. The woman looked like she might explode. Woman, do you know who I am? My husband will hear about this. Judge, I don't care if you're the Queen of England, ma'am. The law applies equally to everyone, and threatening a judge isn't helping your case. Would you like to make it 2 years? She stormed out of the courtroom, nearly tripping in her high heels. The rest of us dog owners exchanged glances and tried not to laugh until we were outside. The story spread quickly through our community. For weeks after, people at the dog park would ask me to retell what happened in court. Some even brought treats for my Golden, calling him the designer dog slayer, which I thought was a bit much, but he certainly enjoyed the extra snacks. The woman never returned to our dog park. I heard through the grapevine that she moved to a wealthier suburb where she tried to start a premium breeds-only dog meetup group that failed spectacularly when no one showed up. As for my Golden and me, we still go to Oakwood Dog Park almost every day. Sometimes I think about that woman and wonder if she ever realized how ridiculous she was being. Probably not. But at least our park remains a place where all dogs, regardless of their pedigree or price tag, can run and play together, just as it should be. Story 3. I've worked at Sweet Rounds Donut Shop for almost 3 years now. It wasn't my dream job by any means, but it helped pay my way through college. I'm studying criminal justice, ironically enough, hoping to become a police officer someday. My dad was on the force for 25 years before retiring, and I grew up admiring his dedication to serving the community. Working at a donut shop, you get to know the local cops pretty well. It's not just a stereotype, they really do love their donuts and coffee. Most of them are regulars, and they always pay full price despite the jokes about cops getting free donuts. The owner of Sweet Rounds is actually my uncle, and he's a stickler for rules. No freebies unless it's friends and family discount day, he always says. So there I was, working the morning shift on a busy Saturday. We had a steady stream of customers, and I was the only one at the counter while my coworker was in the back preparing fresh batches. Around 8:30 am, the door chimed, and in walked two officers from the local precinct. I recognized them immediately, Officer Mitchell and Officer Rodriguez. I know their names because of their name tags, not because we're on a first-name basis or anything. They were regulars who came in about twice a week. Me, good morning, officers? The usual? Officer Mitchell, morning. Yes, please. And throw in one of those maple bars today too. I nodded and started grabbing their order. Just as I was ringing them up, the door chimed again. A woman walked in wearing khaki cargo pants, a navy blue button-up shirt, and what looked like a toy badge pinned to her chest. Her hair was cut in that classic, I want to speak to the manager style, and she had this look of absolute authority on her face that seemed forced and unnatural. She strode directly to the counter, completely ignoring the line that had formed, and positioned herself right next to the two police officers. I could immediately tell the officers noticed her badge. They exchanged a quick glance that spoke volumes. Me, I'll be with you in just a moment, ma'am. Just finishing up with these customers. The woman straightened her posture and put her hand on the counter, practically leaning over it. Woman, I need service now. I'm on duty and don't have time to wait. Officer Rodriguez raised an eyebrow but stayed quiet. Officer Mitchell turned slightly to get a better look at her badge. Me, I understand, but I need to finish with the customers who were here first. I'll be quick. Woman, do you know who I am? I'm an officer of the law. I protect people like you every day. The least you could do is offer me some respect and a free box of donuts for my service. At this point, the real officers were both fully turned toward her, studying her makeshift uniform. I could see Officer Mitchell trying not to smile. Me, ma'am, we don't offer free food, even to law enforcement. Everyone pays the same price. Woman, that's ridiculous. I put my life on the line every day. I deserve some recognition. She pulled out her badge and held it up to my face. It was clearly plastic, with police written in bold letters that were slightly crooked. It looked like something you'd get in a child's costume kit from a dollar store. Officer Rodriguez, excuse me. Ma'am, what precinct did you say you're with? The woman froze for just a second, then straightened her shoulders even more. Woman, I'm with the, Special Investigations Unit. Undercover. That's why you wouldn't recognize me. Officer Mitchell, Special Investigations, and what department oversees that unit? Woman, that's classified information. I don't have to share that with you. By this point, I was struggling to keep a straight face. The other customers in line were watching the scene unfold with a mixture of confusion and amusement. Officer Rodriguez, ma'am, can I see your badge again? The woman hesitated, then held out her plastic badge with a smug expression. Woman, see? Official police business. Officer Mitchell took a closer look and then pulled out his real badge. Officer Mitchell, this is what a real police badge looks like, ma'am. The woman's face paled slightly, but she doubled down. Woman, mine is different because I'm in a special unit. Now, about those free donuts. I stood there awkwardly, not sure if I should intervene or let the officers handle it. The woman reached over the counter and grabbed a chocolate-glazed donut from the display case. Woman, I'll just take this for now. Consider it a service tax. She took a large bite of the donut, looking directly at me with a triumphant expression. That's when Officer Rodriguez pulled out his handcuffs. Officer Rodriguez, Ma'am, I'm placing you under arrest for impersonating a police officer, which is a felony, and for theft of that donut you just took without paying." The woman's eyes widened, and she actually tried to swallow the huge bite she'd just taken so fast that she started coughing. "Woman, what? This is ridiculous. I was just joking around. Can't you take a joke?" "Officer Mitchell, impersonating an officer isn't a joke, ma'am. It's a serious offense." "Woman, but I'm late for work. I just wanted a donut. This is so unfair." As Officer Rodriguez recited her rights, the woman's face turned from pale to bright red. She was still holding the half-eaten donut when they cuffed her. "Woman, you can't do this to me. Do you know who my husband is? He's a very important businessman. He'll have your badges for this. Officer Mitchell, feel free to explain that to the sergeant at the station." The woman continued protesting as they led her outside. I could hear her yelling even after the door closed. The remaining customers in line looked at me in shock, and then someone in the back of the line started slow clapping. Soon, everyone was applauding. An elderly man at the front of the line shook his head. "Elderly man? Some people have no shame. Must have thought she could fool everyone with that toy badge." "Me, I've seen a lot of things working here, but that's definitely a first." Later that day, my uncle called me after hearing about the incident from another employee. "Uncle, I heard you had some excitement today. Woman tried to use a fake badge to get free donuts." "Me, yeah, and she did it right in front of 2 actual cops. Not her brightest moment." "Uncle, people never cease to amaze me. How'd the cops handle it?" "Me, like professionals. They were calm the whole time, even when she started making threats about her important businessman husband." My uncle laughed. "Uncle, well, I'm glad they were there. Would have been a mess otherwise. Did she actually eat the donut?" "Me, mid-bite when they put the cuffs on. You should have seen her face. Chocolate glaze and all." About 2 weeks later, Officer Mitchell and Officer Rodriguez came back to the shop. I hadn't seen them since the incident. "Me, good morning, officers. The usual?" Officer Rodriguez, "Yes, please. And good news, our donut thief pled guilty yesterday. Got community service and a fine." "Me, no prison time for impersonating an officer?" Officer Mitchell, first offense, and her lawyer made a big deal about how she's learned her lesson. But she's banned from coming within 100 feet of this place. "Me, well, that's something at least." Officer Rodriguez, the best part was when the judge asked her why she did it, and she said she saw it in a movie once and thought it would work. We all laughed. As I handed them their order, my uncle emerged from the back room. "Uncle, these are on the house today, officers." Officer Mitchell, "Oh, we couldn't." "Uncle, I insist. Consider it a thank you for keeping the riff-raff out of my shop." They thanked him and took their free coffee and donuts. As they were leaving, Officer Rodriguez turned back. "Officer Rodriguez, you know, with your criminal justice degree, we could use someone like you on the force when you graduate." I smiled, feeling a little boost of pride. "Me, I'd be honored. Just a few more semesters to go." That incident became something of a legend at Sweet Rounds. Even now, my uncle has a small sign behind the counter that reads, "We reserve the right to verify all police badges, no exceptions." Story 4. 3 months ago, I moved into what I thought was a quiet suburban neighborhood. I'm a software developer who works from home, and after years of saving, I finally bought my dream car, a midnight blue Tesla Model 3. Nothing too flashy, but definitely the nicest thing I've ever owned. I worked overtime for 2 years to afford it, and I take meticulous care of it. The trouble started last Tuesday. I was coding away at my desk when my doorbell rang around 2 p.m. I wasn't expecting anyone, but I figured it might be a package delivery. When I opened the door, there stood a woman I'd seen a few times around the neighborhood. She had the classic, "Can I speak to the manager" haircut, and was wearing expensive-looking workout clothes despite looking like she hadn't worked out in years. I'd never spoken to her before. "Neighbor, hi there, I live 4 houses down. I've seen you around, but we haven't officially met. Me, oh, hello. Nice to meet you. Neighbor, so listen, I have a bit of an emergency. My minivan is in the shop, and I need to pick up my kids from soccer practice at 3:30, then take them to their piano lessons across town by 4:15. I noticed you have that nice Tesla in your driveway, and I was wondering if I could borrow it for a couple hours. I was so stunned I almost laughed, thinking it was a joke. Who asks to borrow a stranger's car, especially a Tesla? Me, I'm sorry, but I don't loan my car to anyone. I'd be happy to call you a rideshare service if you're in a bind. Her friendly demeanor changed instantly. Neighbor, excuse me. Do you know how difficult it is being a mother of 3 active children? My husband took our second car on a business trip, and I need to get my kids to their activities. It's not like you're using it right now. I can see you're just sitting at home working. Me, I understand you're in a difficult situation, but I'm not comfortable loaning my car to someone I just met. I'd be happy to help you find another solution though. Neighbor, you don't understand because you're not a parent. When you have kids, you'll realize that mothers need to stick together and help each other out. I only need it for 3 hours max. Me, I'm sorry, but the answer is still no. I can help you call a taxi or… Neighbor, you're being incredibly selfish right now. I'm a mother and you're not. My needs are more important than whatever you're doing on your computer all day. I promise I'll bring it back with a full charge. At this point, I was getting irritated by her entitlement. Me, being a mother doesn't entitle you to my personal property. I've offered alternatives, but I'm not lending you my car. I hope you understand. Neighbor, fine, be that way. You'll regret being so unhelpful to a neighbor in need. People like you are what's wrong with this neighborhood. She stormed off down my driveway, shooting daggers at my Tesla as she passed it. I closed the door, feeling uncomfortable but glad I stood my ground. I worked for a few more hours and decided to order takeout for dinner around 6 p.m. When I stepped outside to grab my food from the delivery driver, my heart nearly stopped. Someone had keyed my car, a long, deep scratch running from the driver's door all the way to the rear panel. And there, tucked under the windshield wiper, was a handwritten note that read, "Next time say yes when a neighbor asks for help. A disappointed mother." I was shaking with anger. The camera. I suddenly remembered that I had installed a doorbell camera with a wide-angle view that included most of my driveway when I first moved in. I immediately checked the footage. There she was, clear as day. The same woman who had asked to borrow my car earlier, looking around to make sure no one was watching, then deliberately running her keys along the side of my Tesla. The camera even caught her placing the note under my wiper before hurrying away. I called the police right away and showed them the footage. They took a report and said they'd be paying her a visit. I also got an estimate for the damage, $3,200 to properly repair and repaint the scratched panels. The next morning, 2 police officers knocked on my door. "Officer, we spoke with your neighbor last night." At first, she denied everything. But when we mentioned the video evidence, she broke down and admitted to vandalizing your vehicle. We've given her the option to make restitution directly to you or face charges of criminal property damage. Me, what did she say? Officer, she's asking if you'd accept payment for the repairs without pressing charges. She claims she had a moment of weakness and is worried about how charges might affect her family. I thought about it for a moment. While I was still furious, I didn't necessarily want to escalate things further if I could get my car fixed. Me, I'll accept payment for the repairs, but I want it in writing and I want it to cover the full amount. The officers nodded and said they'd relay my response. That afternoon, the woman's husband came to my door, looking mortified. "Husband, I want to personally apologize for my wife's behavior. There's absolutely no excuse for what she did. I've been out of town and just got back to find out about this whole situation. I'm truly sorry." Me, I appreciate the apology, but your wife caused significant damage to my property. Husband, I understand completely. I've seen the estimate, and I want to make this right. My wife is… Well, she's facing some consequences at home for this. I'm willing to pay the full repair cost plus extra for your trouble. Would $10,000 be acceptable? I just want this resolved without court involvement. I was shocked by the offer more than 3 times the repair estimate. Me, that would cover the repairs and then some. Are you sure? Husband, absolutely. My wife's actions were inexcusable, and I want to make sure you're properly compensated. We'll also be staying well away from you and your property in the future. He handed me a check right there, and I confirmed with the bank the next day that it was legitimate. My car was repaired the following week, good as new, and I used the extra money to install additional security cameras around my property. The best part? The entitled neighbor now crosses the street whenever she sees me coming. I later found out from other neighbors that she had been pulling similar stunts around the neighborhood for years, borrowing things and never returning them, letting her kids run wild on other people's properties, demanding special treatment everywhere she went, but no one had ever stood up to her with solid evidence before. Turns out my doorbell camera did more than just protect my car, it helped put an entitled neighbor in her place and made the whole neighborhood a little more peaceful. Sometimes justice does get served, even if it takes a Tesla getting keyed to make it happen.